Hello everyone. Um, Welcome back to the video. Welcome back to the channel. I'm floored by recent events that have been happening, and this is kind of going to be more of a stream of consciousness sort of thing. I have nothing for you guys. This is just me screaming out into the void. And you know what? Like, this is already our performance. I'm not trying to perform for you, yet I am psychologically performing. And I'm psychologically performing for a fake audience where it's just people behind the camera that don't exist in my room, that don't exist anywhere here around me. They're all people that might be real, that might see me at some point. The fucking FBI, the CIA, I don't know. I don't know. Okay? I don't know. And now my cat's taking a shit in the litter box. And it's going to bother me. And I count it every time. Every stroke that he goes, I count it. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I started going to therapy, and after about a couple months of seeing my therapist, we sort of put together that, or rather she, diagnosed me with what is called avoidant personality disorder. And it's basically, if I were to like sum it up in one sentence, it's where I avoid anything that is risky or potentially harmful. Like social situations where I feel that I could be damaged in some way, like emotionally or psychologically or anything. It is just like extreme fearful avoidance, pretty much. And so now my strategy to combat this is to dive headfirst into everything that makes me uncomfortable. And it's to try to expose myself to things that maybe don't, or rather to expose myself to things and situations that would put a great amount of anxiety into my system, and now I can neutralize their effect. I don't have to experience it in some arbitrary fashion. I can just go through the world and have things happen to me, and then it doesn't matter, because what are you, like, what is anybody going to do about it? Nobody. Like, this is just all in my head. Okay, this is all in my head. This is the things that I'm dealing with in my own life, where I feel like I'm going to get killed, I'm going to die, something's going to kill me. I don't know what. I'm going to die at some point. So are you. We're all going to die. And Israel is bombing the shit out of the Palestinians, and I can't do anything about it. I literally can't do anything about it. I'm just here. I'm this one single individual person. I'm an individual. I'm an individual, part of a collective society. And this collective society, the American public, it's only been 3 minutes since I hit the record button. And I already feel like I'm, like, downtrodden. I already feel destroyed. I already feel walked all over. I already feel like I'm perceiving an imaginary audience in the back of my head. And it's not the back of my head, it's you. It's you. You're the audience. I don't know if you know this, but you... Yes, you. I'm talking about you. Get your hand out of your pants. I'll be back. 1 second. And it just feels crazy to me to be the only sane person in existence. To be the only person who knows anything about anything. And then I meet these voices on the internet that tell me that, like, they also understand, or that I'm wrong. When you're forming your own personality and you're forming your own perspective, where reality and your mind have to meet at some point in the middle, you think that like, you're gonna get somewhere, And then someone tells you some completely different thing, and you're like, ah, my entire world is shattered. I have no idea what to think anymore. And like, that's good. You need to expose yourself to that. You need to expose yourself to people who will shatter your entire worldview on a regular basis. It is how you grow as a person. Okay? Like you'll form these barriers and these mental walls where you are a fortress. You're an impenetrable mind that cannot be destroyed and cannot be taken down by any enemy weapons. And you just have to, like, you have to realize that being stuck in that turtle mode will damage you. It will damage you slowly over time. You will corrode and rot from the inside. Okay? You have to put yourself in conflict's way in order to grow, to learn, to do anything. To be a learner, you either have to be burying your head in the books, and the right books, because there are lots of not right books. There are lots of wrong books. You have to find the right books. And I found this repository online, and I'll give a link to it because it's, well, I don't know if I can actually legally, but I found this one online that's basically just like just free science documents, and it's like literally everything that you could think of, except for a couple of things that I tried to search for in the database and they didn't have it. But aside from that, like academic works, and I'll just throw up some examples at some point if I remember them. My cat is going to jump on the desk. He's trying to jump. He's trying to. I'm not going to let him. Actually, I might let him. He's kind of cute. His name is Sushi. And another thing, like this existence that we perceive around us, it's just your personality. It's everything that you perceive about other people is just yourself being reflected back at you. And it takes a very specific kind of... Oh, there he is. There's Sushi. He's a figment of my imagination. You probably didn't even see that. No, he's real. I figured out a way to get my phone to be my webcam, which is pretty cool. So that's part of why this video kind of looks a little different. I got a new desk in here that's combined with my old desk. That's actually my wife's desk that I kind of started using. And I was able to put all of my books on it, which is really cool. And I've got my globe here. You know what globes do. So, back to the main topic. Nothing is real. You pray to God. You worship your novels. You pray for a hero to come and save you. In the Western canon, we are plagued by heroics. When there are no heroes. There are no heroes, and there never will be any heroes. People create fake, positive, in the negative space, heroes. People that they can latch onto, personalities that they can latch onto and use their minds as the canvas to put that personality onto. And once they do that, my cat thinks it's very funny to mess with things in the room and make loud noises whenever I'm trying to record. And I've been trying to record for the last like 3 or 4 days, and every time I get stumped. I'm either staring at the camera, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. I have a script. I actually don't have a script today, but I used to. I had an essay that I wrote, and I realized that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I write, it doesn't matter what I say. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It matters to somebody. It matters to me. You know? I like having things to say. I like having words to read. But that itself puts me in a position of discomfort when I have to look at the camera and look at the thing I'm reading at the same time. And it's like, which one do I look at? Do I look at the camera? Do I look at the thing behind the camera that's telling me what to say? My own robot mind from the past that's telling me to read things now in the present so that I can transmit it to you in your brain. This timeline that we're in, it's awful. It's atrocious. But it is the timeline. We are in the mainstream. We are in the mainstream of reality because there are no other experiences other than this one that you and I are in right now. And my whole concept of what politics is, what it means, how to relate to another human being, these ideas, it gets harder day by day. And when I think about how fascism has developed over the course of many hundreds of years, what really starts to make sense is that fascism is not this unique ideological orphan that was birthed out of the unknown mother of the previous century. It's colonialism. It's neo-colonialism. It is anti-indigeneity. The fascism is colonialism in the specific European context that we often associate the concept of fascism with. It is colonialism that happens to white people, to Europeans. And it can take many different manifestations, many different forms. Because fascism is not this like secret third thing that's not socialism and not capitalism and not feudalism and not fantasyism, you know? It is capitalism. It is just a further evolution. Fascism is just capitalism. It is capitalism in decay. It is colonialism coming home to roost, or the imperial boomerang, as it is often called. It's not authoritarianism. Because authoritarianism doesn't exist. Okay? If there's anything that I can get to you people, is that authoritarianism isn't this, like, thing that suddenly happens. Okay? Everything is born from the womb of the previous life. Everything is rebirthed. Authoritarianism? Give me a break. Anarchists will condemn communists for being authoritarian. Red fascists. I'm like that alone is just so misguided. That conception. And I know I used to think like that. But then I matured. I grew up a little bit. Only like this much. This much. And I took that idea and I threw it away. Why? Because when a revolution occurs, you have to use deadly force. Because the bourgeoisie will not relinquish their power willingly. voluntarily. Why do you think the French Revolution had to break out the guillotines to chop off the royalties' heads? And that's a bourgeois democratic revolution, by the way. That's not even a proletarian revolution. Those are two different things. The American Revolution, also bourgeois democratic. What does bourgeois democratic mean? It means throwing away the divine right of kings. Giving way for legal rights, property rights, and rule by the extremely wealthy. And I know some people are going to think like, oh, well, isn't that kind of the same thing as just being a king anyway? It is still oppressor and oppressed. It is just a new form. It is a new delineation of it, okay? A new evolution. Because in Marx's conception of historical materialism, Marx and Engels talked about how societies go through periods of economic development and then ideological development and then economic development once again, and it's just this cyclical pattern where things go clockwise and counterclockwise. And fascism, and I know this might bother some people when I say it, but the Holocaust is just one genocide of many. And it's a genocide that, don't get me wrong, really awful, evil, conducted by one of the most insane and evil groups of people on the planet, white Europeans. Not just Nazis, but white Europeans. And you know what else? You know what other Holocausts happened before the Holocaust? The indigenous Native Americans. The Indians. They were killed. They were pushed out of their homes and routinely decimated by white, British, and French, and Spanish settler colonialists. And these white settler colonialists would take the land of the natives and then give them like a fraction of it back during ceasefires and peacetime accords and treaties. They would say, oh, okay, all right, we're done taking your land. You guys can have this little bit here, but this is ours now. And you always have these factions within indigenous groups that were like, no, let's let them have it. It's okay. It's fine. We still have all of this other land. It's okay. We'll just let them coexist. Let them coexist. It's fine. And it was never about coexistence. It was about buying off a section of the population, giving some people more land than others to divide the colonial subjects against themselves, against each other. Meanwhile, the settler colonists expand their powers. The British outnumbered the French and the Spanish by a factor of like 8-4 or something like that. I don't know, like 1 to something. They outnumbered them. Because while other European powers like the French and the Spanish were using the resources of the Americas to enrich their home countries, the mother countries, with their colonies, the British decided, you know what? Why don't we make this new land New England? More England. That's why we have a place in America called New England. New Jersey. New York. York and Jersey were British cities, British counties. Yorkshire. The British were like, man, we need more land and we need to permanently settle it. And this was in the 1600s, the 1500s, the 1600s, and then the 1700s, when you have early ascendant America, where a British colony populated by separatists decide that they're going to move against their king across the ocean so that they can settle more land for themselves. Because the king, I think it was King George at the time, King George III, was like, no, you cannot settle. Aren't you colonists? You cannot settle past the Appalachian Mountains. All of that is not our territory, and you cannot take it. And that was not enforced very heavily. They were just like, fuck you. Whatever, we're going to do it anyway. And during this bourgeois democratic revolution, and leading up to it, you had an ascendant bourgeoisie of landowners and industrialists and businessmen and people who felt that instead of having all of their rights being dictated by a king, a single individual, they had moved their economic development, had pushed them to a new ideological frontier called liberalism. And this liberalism was used to justify further land seizures, not just of the natives, but of any other colonial power that was weaker. Thomas Jefferson was Hitler. Thomas Jefferson was one of the original Hitlers in history. He wrote about the future visions that he had of the United States, of the America, of the colonies, basically, where it would be an empire that spans from sea to sea. And not just sea to sea, but from North American continent to the tip of South America. It was conceived that their empire would span the entire Western Hemisphere. Where they would populate it with British colonists, British families, white settler colonialists. And they just kept running into issues, running into snags. And most of the time, they annexed territory, they bought it out under the threat of violence, or they just straight up murdered the indigenous and took it. Andrew Jackson is another perfect example of the manifest destiny Hitlerite. And it's so funny to kind of refer to Thomas Jefferson and these like founding fathers as Hitlerites. It's kind of anachronistic if you think about it, because in reality, Hitler was a Jeffersonite. Hitler was kind of a Winston Churchill was a Jeffersonite. Because during World War II and leading up to it, Winston Churchill was overseeing the fucking Bengal famine and Indian subcontinent colonialization. And it was dastardly, the level of genocide and death caused by the British Empire, not just in the Americas, but in Australia, in Canada, the Acadians, as they were once called. And in India, in China. China became colonized. One of the greatest empires to ever exist. Han China was colonized. by Western European powers. And I'm kind of in one part of my mind, I'm sick of people in the US just suddenly realizing, oh no, America is becoming fascist. America's becoming fascist. Trump is the evil fascist. He's the fascist. Like, this country has been fascist for hundreds of years. We just didn't call it that. We didn't have a term for it yet until Mussolini, until Hitler, until the Nazis. And I think that one of the most successful propaganda campaigns in the 20th century in the post-war world was America coming out on top economically and then just completely erasing its continuity to Nazi Germany. That from American origins and ideas and colonial practices by other European powers that Germany was definitely getting inspiration from and sometimes collaborating with, they erased that through line. And then suddenly the liberal New World Order perception is that Nazi Germany and fascism were just these like flukes. Just a unique form of evil that had never previously existed. And that perception has dominated Western academia and Western popular culture. Because they can point at this guy, Hitler, who did the salute. He did the salute and he murdered a bunch of Jews, and not just Jews, but gay people, trans people, communists, socialists, anarchists, people who were on the left, who challenged colonialism and who challenged capitalist empire. And America can't have communists either. That's why the Red Scare happened. That's why the Cold War happened. Because the Soviet Union was an actual, tangible alternative to capitalism. They were the first socialist state. And they successfully fended off German invasion and settler colonialism in Eastern Europe. Not only that, but the Soviet Union also fended off Japanese fascism. Whoa. What's that? I hear you asking. Emperor Hirohito and the Japanese Empire colonized mainland China throughout the early half, pre-World War II. Early half of the 20th century, pre-World War II. Japan invaded several places. They invaded mainland China, Korea, Indonesia, the Philippines. They invaded and expanded because they were also experiencing massive capital crises. And when capitalism runs into a major crisis, what do these big states do? They propagandize their population in preparation for war and invasion to seize more profits, to seize resources, to seize land. and to commit genocide. China learned from the Soviets. The reason why China is not Japanese today is because of the Chinese communists. God bless them. May my Western Jesus Christ God bless the Chinese. Because they did God's work in fending off the fascist Japanese, as well as murdering all their landlords. The Palestinians are being murdered by the thousands, by the tens of thousands, by the hundreds of thousands. And they've been displaced, murdered, destroyed. And the British oversaw that too in the very beginning. The Zionist Israeli colony was a European creation. It is another manifestation of fascism. And fascism is just colonialism, so therefore Zionism is colonialism. And Americans are hopeless. Americans are hopeless. We're using ChatGPT to replace our critical thinking skills. We're using AI, which is not really intelligence. It's a language model. It's like advanced language prediction. It doesn't actually think. It's just like a really, really advanced Google search. But you know, you Google one thing, and Google has its own AI thing now where you Google something, and then it'll give you a summary of your Google searches. It'll filter out things that should not be seen. Should not be seen. And no one reads anymore. Who's reading books? I am. I try to read every day. Reading is powerful. Knowledge is powerful. But the American government and the bourgeoisie do not want you to know that. Or at the very least, they only want you to read the things that they deem accessible and important and valid. Have you looked at the recent list of banned books in New York, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina? Notice I'm saying a lot of Bible Belt states. Reading is fundamental, as one of my marvelous capitalist heroes once said. Reading is fundamental, because if you cannot read, you cannot resist. Not in the modern context that we have. Before people could read, they would resist. But that's because they had communities. And we do not have communities anymore. In the United States, we have a settler colonial empire built off of the backs of slavery and indigenous genocide. And if you read about that, people will tell you, oh, or if you talk about it, people will be like, oh, that was in the past. It doesn't matter anymore. Every country's been conquered. You ever hear that? You ever hear that line, that canned response? When you say, Israel is conquering Palestinian land and decimating their population. Mowing the grass. Mowing the lawn. Where they go and they shoot people routinely. And then they bulldoze over their bodies. Over 200,000 Palestinians have died just since October 7th. But Zionists want you to condemn Hamas. The American government wants you to condemn Hamas, a resistance group. I do not condemn Hamas. I applaud them. I don't care what you think. You right-wing Zionist filth. I do not care what you think. FBI. I do not give a fuck what you think. Come to my house. Take me away. Deport me. Try it. I finally unlocked it, guys. I've unlocked my 5th chakra. My 7th chakra. My 9th chakra. I've unlocked my 3rd eye. There's nothing that you can do to harm me anymore. And you can unlock your chakra for one easy payment of $19.95. For 12 easy payments of $119.95. Every month, I'll be holding a seminar where you can unlock your 5th chakra, and your 4th one, and your 3rd one, and your 2nd one, and your 1st one. Just give me money, and we'll read through Buddha's 8-fold path. Discover harmony. Discover resistance through peace. Discover resistance through peace. You can put that stick down and stop beating up that cop. Real resistance is laying down on the ground and letting them bulldoze over you.